Hello, welcome to Story Time. It's me, Josh. Today we're going to be reading another Mr. Men story called Mr. Jelly by Roger Hargreaves. And we're going to delve right into it. Hope you're comfortable. Hope you're ready. Because we're about to delve into story time. That's right. Let's do it. Poor Mr. Jelly was frightened of everything and anything. At the slightest little thing, he would quiver and tremble and shake and turn to jelly. So it's not really surprising to find that Mr. Jelly lives as far away from everybody as possible. In the middle of a wood, miles and miles from anywhere. Look, there's Mr. Jelly's house. Deep in the wood amongst all the trees. Hidden. This story begins one morning when Mr. Jelly was asleep. It was a beautiful autumn morning. The sun was shining. The leaves on the trees had turned to a glorious red. And the wind stirred gently in the treetops. It sounds really nice. A single leaf fell gently from the tree right outside Mr. Jelly's house and quietly brushed against his bedroom window as it fell. Mr. Jelly awoke with a start. "What's that terrible noise?" he cried. "Oh, heavens! The house is falling down! Oh, disaster! It's an earthquake! Oh, calamity! It's the end of the world!" he's feeling quite scared all of a sudden. And he hid under the bedclothes, trembling with affright. Look, Mr. Jelly, do you think he looks a bit scared? Yeah, definitely. After an hour, by which time he realized that his house wasn't falling down, and there wasn't an earthquake, and the world wasn't coming to an end, Mr. Jelly peeped from out under the bedclothes. "Phew," he said. "Thank goodness for that." He got up and went downstairs to make his breakfast. Look, you can see Mr. Jelly there, all tucked underneath his bed sheets. Sometimes when it gets scary, do you ever tuck yourself under the bed sheets? Don't worry, it's okay. There's nothing, no monsters out there to get you. You just got to look for mum and dad, and they'll keep you safe, or anybody who can look after you there. Yeah, be brave. Mr. Jelly poured some cornflakes out of a packet into a bowl. Then he poured some milk onto the cornflakes. Then he went to the cupboard to get some sugar. Crackle, crackle went the cornflakes in the milk. Do you know how sometimes when you pour the milk into the cereal, it starts to make crackly sounds as all the milk seeps through all of the cereal? "Oh, goodness gracious!" cried Mr. Jelly, diving under the kitchen table. "Oh dear, I hear guns! Oh, calamity! It's war!" But of course it wasn't. And of course Mr. Jelly eventually came out from under the table and ate up all his cornflakes. Poor Mr. Jelly. After breakfast, Mr. Jelly thought that he'd go for a walk. He was walking through the woods which surround his house when a worm poked his head out of the ground. "Morning," said the worm cheerfully to Mr. Jelly. Mr. Jelly nearly jumped out of his skin. "What?" he shouted. "Who's there?" And then he saw the worm. "Oh, good heavens! It's a snake! Oh dear, a man-eating snake! Oh, calamity! I'm going to be eaten alive!" He jumped into a tree. Mr. Jelly's a little bit fearful. There's a little worm down there, and you can see Mr. Jelly high up in the tree, trying to hide. "What a performance," commented the worm, and went back into his hole. Little worm there. After an hour, Mr. Jelly felt brave enough to climb down from the tree and continue his walk. Eventually he came out of the other side of the wood and into a field. Mr. Jelly glanced nervously around. It was an empty field. Or was it? Who knows? Mr. Jelly creeping through the trees there, trying to see if there's anyone out there to harm him in the field. Who knows? Let's find out. In the long grass in the middle of the field, unseen by Mr. Jelly, there was a tramp enjoying a sleep in the autumn sunshine. Mr. Jelly picked his way cautiously through the grass. The tramp, fast asleep, snored. Yeah. I guess tramp means human or a man. I don't know. Because he kind of just looks like a person. Yeah, but they call them tramps in the story. Maybe we'll find out the more we progress. "What was that?" shrieked Mr. Jelly. "It's a lion! I heard a growl! Oh, goodness gracious! Oh, dear me! A lion! A huge lion! A huge lion with enormous teeth! A lion with sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two! A huge, ferocious lion with enormous sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two, if not three!" And he fainted. All this commotion awakened the tramp, who yawned, stretched, sat up, and saw Mr. Jelly lying on the ground beside him. "Oh dear," he said, for he was a kindly tramp. "Oh dear." He picked up Mr. Jelly and placed him gently in the palm of his hand. Mr. Jelly passed out, so Mr. Jelly's only really small. Mr. Jelly came to and sat up, rubbing his eyes. And then he saw the tramp's face looking at him. "Oh, disaster," he screamed. "Oh, calamity. It's a giant, an ogre. Oh, gracious, he's going to have me for breakfast." My, said the tramp gently. "You're a nervous little chap, aren't you? What's your name?" "Mr. Jelly," stammered Mr. Jelly. And there are, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 J's before he says jelly. So he's like jelly. "I used to be nervous like you," said the tramp, "but I learned how not to be. Would you like me to tell you the secret?" Mr. Jelly quivered and shook and said, "Yes. Please." "It's very simple," continued the tramp. "All you have to do is count up to 10, and you'll find that whatever's frightening you isn't quite so frightening after all." Then he set Mr. Jelly down gently on the grass. "Remember," he said to Mr. Jelly, "count to 10, and off he went." Mr. Jelly thought that it would be a very good idea if he went home immediately. Back across the field he went. Back through the woods he went. He was walking through the woods when he stepped on a little twig. Snap went the twig. Mr. Jelly jumped twice. Twice his own height in terror. So he jumped so high, he went 2 of himself above himself. That's pretty high. "What was that?" he shrieked. "That terrible snapping noise. It's a tree falling down. That's going to crush me to pieces. Oh, calamity. It's a crocodile hiding in the bushes, snapping its teeth. Oh, disaster. It's..." And then he stopped. He took a breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he said. And then he saw that what had gone snap was a twig. A silly old twig. "Phew," he said. Mr. Jelly had almost reached his house when a leaf drifted gently down from a tree on top of him. "Help! Police! Murder!" he screamed. "I'm being kidnapped! Oh, calamity! It's ruffians with guns! They're going to..." And then he stopped, took a deep breath. Will you take a deep breath back there with me? And Mr. Jelly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then he saw that what had fallen on him was only a leaf. Nothing but a leaf. A stupid red leaf. "It works," he said out loud in wonderment. Look at how happy Mr. Jelly looks there. Big smile as big as the page. And do you know, it did work. After that moment, Mr. Jelly became a changed man. Well, you can see that by looking at him, can't you? So just kicking back, relaxing. And he never shrieks or shouts or screams or quivers or shakes or trembles anymore. And he never hides under his bedclothes anymore. Well, not very often anyway. There we go. What a fun story. Mr. Jelly. So if you're ever scared, try counting to 10. Maybe that'll work for you. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now, but not forever. Bye for now, but not forever. I can say those words. See you again soon. If you like these, please subscribe and you can read the stories whenever.